State of the Switch October 2018, or you could call it State of the Switch Year 2 Crossroads. We're about to enter the fantastic fall of Pokemon and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. The year preceding has been peppered with pretty cool titles, but also some problems. So we took to Twitter and asked you for how you're feeling about the Switch right here, right now, as we look to crest into 2019 and eventually the third year of Switch. How are we feeling? Gabe and I gave you our takes, and we'll continue to do so, but right now the focus is on you, and the focus begins, Gabe, we're going to get right into it, on Blaze Knight 0923, who says, "The Switch is my preferred console to play anything on. It is fast and convenient to play. The UI loading is the lowest of any console I own, gets me in the game that much faster. The quick start and stop features of the Switch allow me to hop in and out as life demands."
Okay, preferred console is not something I would say about me, but it is my favorite console. I'll 100% give it that. It's just that there's not that many like third-party games that are available on all of them. But if in a pretend world where Blackout exists on Switch, I don't think that's where I would be playing it.
I do appreciate, though, the point that it is so fast to get into and get going. And yeah, it doesn't have, like you mentioned, Call of Duty, and we're not getting Red Dead Redemption 2. So preferred console, taking into account the entire library of potential games, probably not. But when you've got, I guess, the choice, I do like what he's saying here, because it is true. I can boot up and boot into Overcooked 2 incredibly fast. If I want to get going with Mario Party, it's right there and ready to go. And there isn't a lot of fluff or buffer time between getting in and getting on, especially from the handheld side of things. And I think that's something he's also referencing, that, hey, you can just kind of get in to these experiences and stop them and start them whenever you want. That still holds as one of the Switch's greatest advantage. Maybe something that they're not using as well as they could. It kind of does feel to me a little bit similar to Wii U, of like early on they really emphasized the gamepad and then it began to slip away. I think there's just more they could do with emphasizing the handheld, and I know that power becomes an issue, and maybe that is a big part of that 2019 supposed Switch, is making that experience, bringing equality to the two experiences, and then maybe they can emphasize sort of that start and stop a little bit more heavily.
Yeah, but some of these things that he talks about like directly contradict other things that other people want. The reason that the menu and the UI like loads so quickly is because there's nothing to load. Like there's like no music, there's no themes, like none of that stuff is happening. So if people eventually get what they want in the form of like music, themes, more stuff like that, it is gonna load it a little bit slower. At least that's how it feels.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm on both sides of that fence, because I do really want themes and I do really want more items and more apps and more of that sort. And we'll go right to Joby, who says, "The state of the Switch is pretty bad. The Switch needs way more first-party games, and it needs quality control for the eShop releases. Also, remotes are way too expensive, and the Switch still needs themes for the main menu." Ding, ding, ding. It also needs a virtual console and more apps. A lot to unpack here from this comment from a Planetoid. So many things, right? So this is kind of the opposite take from what we just read from our friend Blaze Knight. But where do you want to begin?
I want to begin by saying that Virtual Console is not happening. Like we got to move on.
It's kind of there in like a small way.
Yeah, we got to move on from that. Like even if like other platforms come to the current iteration of, hey, play old Nintendo games, it's not going to be Virtual Console the way people want. Like that's clearly not something Nintendo cares for right now.
Right. No, and it's not going to happen. Will we eventually get Super Nintendo games? I think so. I hope so. But it's dead in the water. I almost wonder if themes are dead in the water at this point, too, and maybe that's another coffin we need to close. More apps is something that definitely can happen, should happen, I think will happen. More first-party games, though, I feel, even if you're going to say that 2018 isn't as strong as 2017, if you're going to compare like Mario and Zelda, I mean, this year is still giving us Pokemon. It still gave us a Kirby game. It still has Mario Tennis, Mario Party, Smash Brothers Ultimate. I think first party, they crush it. You know, they had less ports this year, it felt like, than last year. And they brought out more brand new titles. Quality control on the eShop, though, that is something. And a lot of people talked about, okay, how do we better ascertain what is worth acquiring on eShop, especially since they are kind of like hell-bent on putting just as much out there as they can. some sort of system would be good, but if you think about it, like, it's not like PlayStation or Xbox tell you, like, this is the best game, buy it.
Yeah, they do. But also, first of all, shame on you for not mentioning Labo when you were talking about what Nintendo did for first party this year. How
Forgot
dare
about
you?
Labo. And they do. They tell Microsoft and Sony feed you the games to buy in a better way than just listing the top sellers of the new releases.
Yeah, yes. If you go to PSN, they're like, "What's hot? Like, what's new?" Like, yes, like they do. They emphasize like, "Hey, these are like our free games of the month for like PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live." They do funnel things a little bit better, and when you go to the new releases and stuff, you don't see like Pixie Pampy like as one of the games, or like a $2 like phone game. Like, you don't see that stuff.
Yeah, they do. I guess, point taken. They do bring forth the better titles in a more curated way. So all Nintendo needs, to me, at a very baseline level, is a similar thing: a Nintendo recommended or a What's Hot tab or something that will help you sift through. It's just, I think they want people to test out these other titles and help give every indie a chance to sell. So that becomes, I think, a bit of a catch-22 of like, okay, we want to obviously emphasize the bigger releases, the Celeste and whatnot, but those seem to sell on their own. So shoving these smaller titles to the back does probably slim down what they can get on Switch and at what frequency.
Now, I could be wrong about this, but it does seem like the quality rises to the top. Right? Like,
yes.
if a game is good enough, if it reviews well, word of mouth spreads, and people get it, and then next thing you know, it's on the top sellers list. So
right.
Maybe keep an eye on that, and that's what we have right now for quality control. Ignore the new releases tab, because so much of that is just, for lack of a better word, junk.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on the best sellers, and it's impossible to have like amazing releases all the time, but every once in a while something like reviews well enough or is fun enough that people talk about it, and it does climb the charts there. So that's what I would keep an eye on, at least for now.
Right. And you could say, well, hey, the onus is on the gamer to find out and go to YouTube or go to review sites, but it would be nice if they would, I don't know, it does seem like more complexity in the eShop would serve everyone a little bit better. Joy-Con pricing, they're pricey. They haven't even really been putting them out. I'm not too concerned with that point. So from there, we're going to go to John Joe Cosgrove, who says, I feel that 2018 has been a year of promises and delays, with myself waiting patiently for something good and unique to play. With the exception of Octopath Traveler and Celeste, this year so far has been underwhelming. I hope Pokemon and Smash rectify this. Now, I do want to clarify that I think by delays he means like just waiting, not that Nintendo has delayed games, because that really has not occurred all that much.
That's what I was going to ask. I was like, what got delayed?
Yeah, I think he just means the lulls, right? The up and down lulls of what are we looking forward to, and the fact that they have Pokemon and Smash so backloaded, right? Even if you want to add Mario Party to that list, like the big Nintendo stuff was very Q4 heavy this year.
Yeah, but I found that there was always something I was looking forward to throughout the year. Celeste, Mario Tennis Aces, and Mario Party. Project Octopath was something that I enjoyed, and a lot of other people really found good times with. And then now we're waiting for Pokemon and Smash. Like, there's always something to look forward to that isn't super far ahead, and there are like smaller games in between. I know people are like still like really excited for Dark Souls, and that's releasing very soon. And there's been other things in between. So yeah. I just don't see what he's saying. Like, yes, there's clearly lulls. Like, there's not, like, something brand new every single week. But I don't expect there to be honest.
I absolutely felt this. There were periods where I was like, I don't know what to 100% play on my Switch. And I think if you're super invested in the indie scene, then yes, there always is something worth checking out that week, even if it's, moderately cool just at a low price point. But I do feel what he's saying, that, like, if you want to get the most out of your Switch and be excited, as you're saying, Gabe, you really need to be a genre connoisseur. You really need to like all sorts of games. You need to be as excited for Pokemon as you are for Smash, as you are for a hardcore RPG like Octopath, as you are for a cutesy Kirby title. You're all over the board. Bayonetta. If you want to be excited for the major releases on Switch, you better be just this gamer that dabbles in everything, because if you're an action-heavy gamer or a FPS-heavy gamer, it's slim pickings. Or if you're a sports gamer or a strictly RPG gamer, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, from that standpoint, and I think you and I, like, do cross over into so many different styles of game. But for a lot of people, maybe it feels like, okay, like, where are just like the big showpiece AAA titles? Where are the the big single player games? Like it is harder to find sort of genre consistency as things are spread. I would say pretty thin.
Yeah, I agree with you. Although some of those genres, just by nature, like there's not a lot of choice anywhere. Like how many? Like you have 2 basketball games to pick from. On other platforms.
But then you have Madden, and you're also getting just NHL and a variety. I don't know. I guess I'm just saying that the Switch does get a lot of great stuff, and I think Nintendo again delivered an incredibly strong year, and still that part of that year is coming. But I was just thinking about like you really need to have like a diverse palette if you're going to be pretty excited for everything coming to Switch. And maybe that's remedied next year. And we'll go to Jacob Woodson, who says, I feel like 2018 is supposed to be more of a buffer year between 17 and 19. Next year is getting so many games, Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem, Pokemon Gen 8, maybe even Metroid Prime 4. Nintendo maybe should have spaced big releases better this year, but pretty good overall.
What's with everybody forgetting the most important games of all? Travis Strikes Again? That's coming. Yeah, no, I generally agree with what he's saying here. It's difficult to expect like this amazing 2018 when we got year 1 being what it was. Like we got 2 tentpole games that are going to sell for the lifespan of Nintendo Switch, and Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. And those things are just like so hard to compete with. I don't know that Nintendo can bring out that quality at that scale as often as we would like. And of course, we want that kind of change up in darn near every franchise that Nintendo has if they can make it. But I just feel like that like takes way too much time, and not every franchise lends itself to that. And as the comment says here, there's a lot coming next year. So yeah, maybe it was a little bit of a buffer year. We had a lot of re-releases. We had some lapses in third-party support, but I hope all that's going to come right back.
I think that's that's hitting the nail on the head. It's the third-party support, because Nintendo, again, a year where you're going to say, hey, they're going to have Pokemon, Smash, Kirby, a Bayonetta collection, Mario Tennis, Super Mario Party, and some smaller things like Sushi Striker and Octopath. Like they're I know that wasn't Nintendo, but like exclusive wise, like bringing a lot of great stuff. It just boils down to, okay, the third party I feel is where the gaps start to appear. And next year they do have what seems to again be just a star-studded lineup. It's hard for me to downplay 2018 as a buffer year when you're getting Pokemon and Smash Bros. Like that's just so hard. And maybe right now we have a little bit of bias just because we're not playing them, and they are so close to 2019, so close to the end of the year. But I really feel it's third party that caused this year to maybe feel a bit off. After the newness wears off, after the indie thing kind of, people diverge, whether they're super invested or they're super done with it. Christian Collin says, honestly, there's a great amount of first-party games that I love playing, but when it comes to indie and third-party, the eShop is littered with trash and no way of rating/knowing if what I'm going to buy is a good game. Don't roast me, please. I don't think anything in there is roast-worthy. I think it's an absolutely astute point. It's interesting to me that he's combining indie and third-party, just because while too many titles, I do think there's a lot of incredible indie offerings. Like, you could list out just stellar, star-studded indie games, whether they're new or old or a mix. We look at this year housed Celeste, it housed Hollow Knight, we've got Guacamelee 1 and 2 coming to the console, Into the Breach, just so many really incredible indie 9 out of 10 type games. Towerfall, Ultimate Chicken Horse, just so much great stuff. So that I disagree with a little bit. Again, it's kind of the third party of that, to me, is where the gaps seem to feel the most spaced.
Yeah, I guess maybe what he's getting at here is that for every one of those games that you mentioned, there's like 20 of these other ones that are just so hard to... they're like littering the eShop. The eShop feels littered. It feels like you got to get somebody that maybe didn't come home by curfew or something. So send them to eShop and give them one of those little, I don't know what the picks that they use to pick up trash on the side of the road. I'm trying to make a joke here that I don't know the verbiage for, but yeah, they need to pick up the trash a little bit. It is maybe what he's saying a little bit here, and I can't say I disagree with that. If there was some type of quality control,
but the ask to reduce the amount of games or to put up a you aren't welcome here, I think that just goes against what the Switch eShop ecosystem is trying to create and allow for. And I don't know that you can have it both ways. I don't know that you can have this super easy open platform that brings you the best of the best, but doesn't bring you anything that might be ho-hum or even sometimes crappy. I think a highly curated, only the cream of the crop is not necessarily a good thing for Nintendo or for us in the long run.
Yeah.
Let's go on the real upbeat side of things. Luke French says, super happy with the console experience. There's been a whole heap of nitpicking as of late, but if you take a step back and enjoy the experience for what it is, there's nothing else in the market that delivers such freedom and portability as the Switch.
Yeah, well, nothing else on the market offers portability at all, so it's very easy to win that battle. When
PlayStation Vita.
It's not on the market anymore. They don't sell them. I mean, yes, you can still find one,
sure.
But they're not. No one's actively developing big games for Vita. It's easy to win a battle that no one's fighting against, like you. So.
Also, I called him Luke French, and it's Luke Fenech, so I apologize. It just, I don't know, I was in a very European state of mind.
Yeah.
I think this is a good attitude. I think it is the attitude of, and I might be completely off base, but of the Nintendo-only gamer, or of someone who also has another console and doesn't worry. Because to me,
wait, so both people that only play Nintendo and people that do play other stuff?
No, but bear with me, because there are people that are just Nintendo fans, and I think they're very pleased with the Switch, given all the first-party support and given the uniqueness of the system and what it allows for. And then there's people that very clearly view the Switch as their secondary console that they take on the go, which I'm predicting is going to be Luke's his play style. Mm-hmm. I think the people that are most frustrated, though, are the ones that either A, want Nintendo to really reinsert themselves as a equal player in this console battle, or the people that want the Switch to be their primary console and also like a ton of different games.
I wish I could have a conversation with someone that only plays Nintendo games. I have so much to ask. And not even negative stuff. I'm like, hey, how has Nintendo not brought you onto these other that's just a fascinating thing to me, and I know that they exist.
Sure,
but I don't know anyone like that.
I do agree. There is a lot of nitpicking, but I think it's because the Switch came with such nervousness at the beginning, and then such insane, just a huge boost of hype, promise, enthusiasm, and just universal praise, that we got in this mindset of okay, this is going to be the greatest Nintendo console ever, and they're going to just blow us out of the water. Well, that kind of slowed down a bit as we saw that the support was maybe more of an early mirage than something that fully materialized, and we're still getting some. Even Panic Button, though, does say they kind of want to work on other stuff. They don't want to just be handcuffed to the Switch, which then, okay, what do we do if we don't have them, since they're taking care of a lot of the best and biggest ports? Jabbo Thunder, I think, categorizes the Switch and the state of it very nicely. He says, flawed greatness. Nintendo has a vast library of amazing IPs, but they're lacking the necessity of today's gaming needs, such as better online community, achievements, more functional voice chat, and other community-esque applications. Even the Wii U had Miiverse. This
is my favorite comment of the week. I don't know if that's something that you could say here, Zach, but this is the one that I would elect for that. Yeah, it is amazing, but there's clearly flaws, and it's okay to point them out, because we can still love Nintendo and point these faults out, but Nintendo doesn't live in the year we live in. They're very open about that. For better or for worse, Nintendo does things their way. They don't care to try to keep up with everybody. They don't care about whatever trends are happening right now, because they are Nintendo, and they've been around for a very long time. They have been successful for a very long time, and I don't know if that's a good thing, just because the industry has since shifted so much, and power has become so prevalent, and that's the one thing Nintendo refuses to compete with. They don't care.
Yeah, I think this is something that when the going is good, it can be shifted to the back, and when the going is a little rough, then it becomes very much a forefront issue. If they want to say that the focus is games and the experience, that's great, and the Switch does deliver a lot of that. But when the third-party stuff starts to slow down, and when the first-party releases start to feel a little bit spaced, or end of the year heavy, then I think a lot of this other stuff starts to come to the forefront. Because to me, these issues were nowhere near as prevalent in year one because it just felt like there was just so much to do, so much to see, the newness factor. Obviously, we move into year two and it starts to become like, I'm using this console a lot. I wish it had some more, modern nuances. I wish it had some more conveniences, and it doesn't. And then they have a chance to do that with the online, and they don't. And so there is a bit of a disconnect between like what we thought and hoped the Switch could become and what it actually is. And while still incredibly successful and still delivering what, by all accounts, could and can go down as the greatest lineup of Nintendo titles on an individual platform, it is very much, as you said, a Nintendo platform. And I think there was some belief or thought that maybe it wasn't because they had commitment and, they were saying things that sort of showed that, okay, maybe they're taking a turn. And I think they have in some areas, just not all. And in a lot of the ones that are, very obvious to like the Fortnite gamer or to the modern Call of Duty multiplayer-focused player, it's not a platform that, you can't even play Call of Duty. But say for something like Fortnite, it is weird, that it doesn't support these similar features. And if you're trying to appeal to that audience and you don't have Netflix and you don't have a browser and you don't have, onboard voice chat, like it's a little awkward, and they can't come and just say like, well, we have every game and it plays great and runs great and you can take it on the go. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to have some games, then we'd like to still see them have some comparable features.
Yeah.
We'll go with a situational comment next, kind of a sweet, cute story here. JJ Jameson says, as a dad of an infant 2-month-old, having the Switch is a godsend. I can play my games at home or anywhere. It has a diverse library, though it may not apply to everyone since my favorite genre is Metroidvania, and Switch has a ton of those, plus some great RPGs, Xenoblade 2, Octopath, etc. Yes, if you are an old-school gamer, an indie fan, a side-scrolling Metroidvania connoisseur, like, it is gold. I just feel like a lot of people aren't on that page in 2018.
Yeah, while neither of us has begun their collection of Offspring quite yet, I can see that this would be a perfect situation for it to have something like this. Like, yeah. I just envision you, Zach, with future baby Zach, just like laying there trying to rock on to sleep while you're switching one hand, although the Switch is a little big, so it might be hard. Maybe in tabletop party. Yeah, or maybe like in tabletop mode with like a Joy-Con in your hand or something like that, just like rocking in to sleep while playing. I can envision that.
Yeah, no, and it again, for all of these kinds of situations, it's one of a kind. As we mentioned a little bit ago, like nothing else does what it does, and from that standpoint, it's applauded, and it still is applauded. I think, like sort of the like ooh wow factor may have been reduced a bit in year two, but yeah, for things like this, it's incomparable. JV says, I definitely played my Switch a lot less this year compared to last year. Not as many big hitter games and indie games don't do it for me. I love my Switch, but it collected dust for a good percentage of the year. Last year it was my go-to machine. Hopefully 2019 is better. And this is echoed a lot that, wow, like 2018 haven't really used my Switch as much. I do still feel like this changes drastically if Pokemon and Smash don't come out in the last 45 days of the year.
I also think it changes drastically if Pokemon isn't a remake that people are sort of torn up about. Like if this year's game is what next year's game is going to be, like people I don't think they complain about the year as much.
Yeah, I'm happy you said that. I think that is a very great point. If the Pokemon games were flipped, or we just had Gen 8, then maybe this does become like a gargantuan year that can rival 2017. I do still think like, okay, hey, my Switch is gathering dust. Like it's probably going to be very dust-free in November and December because the biggest games are coming in November and December, which is the case for a lot of consoles and a lot of publishers. It just was a little bit mixed up given the fact that Switch launched in March of 2017, so it came out with something absolutely amazing, and then they backed that up with launch window releases that took people's time, and this year was more of a steady, typical year where it is fall loaded, it is holiday season loaded, but it is a good point. Like for whatever reason, no matter how we justify, okay, they have this title and this title, and okay, this character and this character, people across the board are saying like, hey, I did not play my Switch as much this year, and it'll be interesting to see if a more appealing first-party lineup changes that next year, or if this is more a case of like, oh, we're starting to realize like it's not getting the third-party stuff, the indie things aren't as exciting, the newness handheld factor is wearing off. I wonder if it's a bit of false hope to think that it's a dramatic shift in 2019.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you're saying. I have no worries about 2019. There's some big games coming. Fire Emblem, I think, is something that's going to actually make some splashes. That game just looks like so cool based off the very little we have seen. And, people are very amped for Animal Crossing, so excitement, it's on the horizon.
Yeah, I do think, comparing them one-to-one just on paper, like 2019 is a better year. I just wonder if those sort of secondary and tertiary issues, if they're still there, we may be having a little bit of deja vu if we move into 12 months down the line. But let's go to Jake Doxy, who says, I personally think that the Switch will lose traction if Nintendo keeps ignoring the fans. Examples, you ask? No virtual console, no local backups, lackluster online, and even no themes, which would be super easy to implement. On top of all that, minimal AAA games. Do you feel like they're ignoring the fans? Because early on it seemed like it was a fan-centric machine. Has that changed?
The fans want a lot.
Yeah, they do.
So I think it's maybe not ignoring them, but Nintendo either A, doing things at their own pace, B, Nintendo feeling that they know better, and like, hey, like I know that that's what you want, but we're gonna give you this and stuff because it's better in the long run. Yeah, I don't know if I want to call it ignoring the fans. They're just not not even that. They are listening. They're just choosing to do nothing about it for some reason.
Yeah, I think the idea of we're with the fans, to me, is always a bit of nonsense. I don't think it's yes, people clamoring for Crash Bandicoot to come back, I'm sure impacted that eventual release, but it also was motivated by money and what the developers and publishers wanted and thought would be successful. So yeah, they're listening to fans and giving you Mario and Zelda and Metroid and sure, but at the same time, that's just a spin to seem like you're doing everything right, and it's these functional features that Nintendo probably decided behind closed doors in a room long ago that are what fans feel is not on their side. I don't think any amount of clamoring for better online or a bigger virtual console at this point changes what's going on with Switch. I'm just skeptical of how much fan feedback does impact a console. Maybe a game or a DLC plan or structurally something like that, but can we get a themes petition and get them to give us themes? I don't know. I sure hope so. But minimal AAA games, I think Nintendo delivers a lot of AAA stuff. But yeah, this is something that similar to Wii U, and these consoles are very different. But early on, the promise of here's the list of all the publishers and devs we have on board and all the big games. Remember, Wii U started with Mass Effect and Batman and Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty. That was a one and done type deal. The Switch, given all of a sudden the sales snowballing that we saw, we thought it would be similar, hey, that they're going to have all this massive support. It's almost year 3 and it's not there. So, I don't know. After discussing all of these comments, I do wonder if the state of the Switch right now is going to be the state of the Switch for a very long, maybe even as long as the console exists.
Which shouldn't surprise us. But one thing that does give me a little bit of hope is that in year 1 of the Switch, we heard a lot of comments from publishers. Hey, we're going to wait and see.
Yeah.
We want to see how this thing does a little bit before we, dive into it. They've waited, they've seen, and for the most part, it's done well. So, I'm hoping that leads to more. Maybe some games that have been in development, maybe we see them towards the end of 2019, maybe early 2020. And again, just next year, I'm not worried about at all. I think next year is going to be phenomenal. There's a hardware revision coming. We have, and this isn't Switch, but the potential of a N64 classic coming, and then all of those games that we've mentioned over and over, so we won't continue to do so. But there's a lot next year.
Yeah, there's totally the possibility for a third-party renaissance to hit that maybe just was delayed a few years because of wait and see and because of development. I'm skeptical, but we'll see. And then,
but if not, it's not like they've done this before. This is a position Nintendo's not a stranger to.
Yeah, and just then the decision of, do you try to make a lesser version of a multi-platform game, or do you go more of the Ubisoft route and give us a Mario plus Rabbids? Hopefully a mix of both, and hopefully we start to see those trees bearing fruit in 2019. Terex, the Eco Nomad, says, big third party still seems to be lacking, but it is the best way to play indie games. Just wish the online service was better and had apps like Netflix and Twitch. Even with that, I think the Switch will keep me busy through even the next generation of consoles. It does, again, provide something pretty unique. And if you are more like, hey, just sort of collecting a whole bunch of great indies or a whole bunch of games from the past, I mean, we're getting freaking Saints Row next year. It is still a super cool way to do that. It's just not going to keep you at the forefront in any real way except for Nintendo titles and except for portability.
I forgot that Saints Row was still happening.
Hey.
Hey, the state of the Switch is perfect then.
Hey, it's going to be good. Shane Kelly says, as a day one Switch owner towards the beginning of 2018, I personally felt a drought, especially since all the games besides Kirby had come out on the Wii U, which I owned. That paired with virtually no customization besides your picture just makes me want anything. Anything, Gabe. Give him anything. And I think Nintendo has given us stuff. Maybe it didn't hit, but like they gave a pretty cool way to experience NES games. I think that app has incredible polish and it's insanely fast and is like the coolest, best way to play retro games that I've experienced. Maybe it doesn't have quite the catalog and maybe it doesn't have the systems that people would like to see. But given their direct style, given the modular nature of consoles in this generation, anything's possible. And themes and apps, there could be a January Direct that brings about all of this. I'm going to quickly move us, Gabe, to Ivan or Ivan Rupee, who says, I'm dissatisfied with the current state of the Switch. 1, an underwhelming amount of satisfactory content. 2, flooded with mediocre indie games. 3, online service is lacking. 4, underpowered and outdated hardware.
It sounds like you're just not a Switch fan.
Yeah.
Like, if that stuff, you have every right for it to bother you, but, like, maybe sell your Switch. Like, if the fact that it's underpowered is always going to be bothering you like that, like, this thing is not for you, because that's not changing.
Right. And at the same time, I do think that a number of these things can and will be rectified. I mean, you spoke on power, but that could even be something that is improved given that revision that we expect to happen next year. I don't know how you determine satisfactory content. I think that's a player-by-player basis, but the lineup is looking really great for third-party. EShop correction is something that is so simple. That is one that I can't see them ignoring. As any app store or game store has evolved with an excess of titles, they've made moves to make things more consumer friendly. And Nintendo did add a couple tabs, and maybe they need to add a couple more, but that one is one I think that can be easily taken care of. The online service lacking, not sure you're ever going to get that, but it comes in at a price point that, to me, doesn't need to give a whole lot to be worth the money. So it's a situation where I feel like in general people are maybe tepid right now, but I do think a lot of it is because we are at that crossroads point before what I would consider the third and fourth biggest Switch games are about to release. And, you know, for certain players and certain communities, that's the second and third, or the first and the third, or the first and the second. The two big titles that defined year one, Super Mario Odyssey and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Those were talked about, those sold Switches, and those delivered the ultimate Nintendo experiences. Our two 2018 titles aren't out yet. So while I do feel so much of this frustration, and I do worry about 2019 and if those sort of secondary factors will begin to flower, I think we feel a lot better rolling into Christmas after playing Let's Go and Smash Ultimate. And so while it's been a shaky few months, I think we're going to get back into the good stuff real soon here.
Yeah, it's, I said it's on the horizon. It's not hard to see, at what point in 2019 this is going to be a fantastic console once again. Not that it's not fantastic now, it's just not perfect, and very few platforms are. Mm-hmm. They don't have the third-party support to, hold them above water like every other console does. So, they're doing what they can with what they have. They've made questionable decisions along the way. Should the Switch maybe never have been this underpowered? Who knows? But that doesn't matter because this is what we have. And indie support is keeping me, for now, at least satiated. I do enjoy indie games. And maybe not everybody else does. Maybe everybody's getting tired of it all. But for the time being, with Pokemon and Smash coming, I know I'm going to dump so many hours into that I'm going to be okay until the real magic happens next year.
Absolutely. I feel like I was very high on the Switch, maybe approaching a complete satisfaction level, and it has ebbed and flowed in 2018. I would say I'm at one of my lowest points right now, but I'm really enjoying Mario Party still, and Smash and Pokemon right around the corner. Let's take stock again in a couple months and see where we're at once we have a better layout of 2019 and once we know what a Switch feels like that includes the Smash Brothers and Pokemon franchises. Thanks for all your feedback, guys and girls. So many good tweets. We obviously couldn't take them all, but we tried to encompass a lot of the bigger themes, and for you guys, that was fantastic. We will be sending a $20 eShop card, as promised, to our good friend. His name is Jabbo Thunder. That was a fantastic comment, and I think it did really summarize the state of the Switch super well, so kudos to you. We'll get that off to you over on Twitter. Until next time, everyone, thanks so much. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest from the Switch, and we'll keep you posted on the state of things as they go throughout this year, next year, and beyond. Follow us on Twitter and Discord, links in the description below, and until next time, for myself and Gabe, thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic weekend. Switch Force, out.